Right Thinking National Online Support Network. We're going to get into that in a little while. You know, we got about 5 themes going right now, and just like we do in all of our conversations, we're talking about Don Green's show last week with Applied Faith, and it has to do so much with believing, just believing, and he really got into faith and believing. And it's really sometimes for some people hard to understand, because there's a lot of people out there, if they don't have any food in their belly and they can't pay their rent and they're under a lot of stress and whatever, you can talk to them all day long about faith, but they need something a little more practical. So as I've been working on this since the last week, thinking about applied faith, I've actually gotten deeper in my understanding of it, and I came across something just earlier this morning that I realized. Applied faith, it's really more about belief. It's not about, I was thinking that applying faith, and I always quote the James 2:14-24, faith without works is dead. We got into that last week. But you know what? It's not, I'll be honest with you. I've got a pastor on here that just is gonna be able to straighten me out, maybe some of you too in a minute. I was thinking at a level, I'm deep with applied faith. I'm deep with Napoleon Hill thinking, positivity, and faith without works is dead. But you know what? It's not works. It's not faith and works we're talking about here. It's more believing. And then when you believe, you know, things happen. And so it's not just doing deeds to go along with you have a faith. And so that's something that I'm really getting into. I was looking for more practical things that we could help people that are struggling, so it can be more direct to pick them up and not have to get them to just completely understand and accept Jesus the first time you talk to them. No, we're talking about the fruits, like you said. So, Wayne, you know what I'm trying to say?
I do. You know, the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, patience, gentleness, goodness, self-control, those and others. And that's what really draws people to faith, is showing and living those fruits in action. And so I think, Steve, people who reach out to people and love them in very sometimes practical ways really have much more impact than what we can possibly say to them. And just to be able to take time to listen to someone has a tremendous effect on the outcome of their life and the decisions.
I made a comment about 2 weeks ago to Wynn, and he honored me by repeating this to someone that he was introducing Right Thinking Foundation to. But I said that there's a lot of professional counselors and probation parole officers and psychologists, psychiatrists, and people like that out there, social workers. And they're good people. They go into that vocation because they care about other people. But their caseloads get heavy sometimes, and then after a while, sometimes it's somewhat of a job, even though they want to do more. I told Wynn that the concept behind the National Online Support Network, that, by the way, Wynn, I would call an equal partner in the direction that Right Thinking is going down, because when I met with Wynn, and he loved the idea of just loving people to try to let them know that you care. He gave me in that very first meeting, he said, you know, Steve, one of the things that happens that's unfortunate to returning citizens when they're incarcerated is they get dehumanized. And the basic process is that if you're in prison, you got to watch your back pretty carefully because you can't trust people. So they learn to really just look out for numero uno, just themselves. And they're very, very careful who they can share anything with, let into who they really are. And if they serve a certain amount of time in prison, when they get out, they're not so good at opening up to other people and receiving what other people want to do and trusting other people. So that has to be rebuilt. So one of the things that Wynn said in our first meeting, and we've been together for like 5 months now, and we're reaching out to a lot of other people, but the National Online Support Network that I brought to Wynn, he added all about Agape Love. In that very first sermon that I heard him say, is he shared that with me, and I put that into an article that I wrote for Connect 10 magazine, where I took his whole sermon that he shared with me on Agape Love. Right Thinking Foundation, if I had to give it to you in a few words, All we are is an organization that is going to be sharing, giving agape love to other people. And my comment is, you can take all those counselors and probation officers and professional people, but if you have one real friend that genuinely cares about you, that cares about your well-being, that's not judgmental, that's not looking for anything from you, and you can have a friend that cares about you like what Wynn's been doing for me. Wynn knows that I'm fighting really, really hard sometimes to move life forward. Right Thinking Foundation has been pretty much just me and my wife for the last 6 years, and we're slowly bringing in other people. But when I say we prayed for an angel, I can't do right thinking by myself with all the work that needs to get done. This is the groundwork for 6 years of a national foundation. I'm getting ready to go on my second cross-country trip, and I'm going to be going to prisons out in Oregon, where I already went to recruit people into Right Thinking Foundation's National Online Support Network. But I'm here to tell you that Wynn has decided to get so deep into this with right thinking that he is using his own church and a program called the Stephen Ministry, and I like that name a lot, the Stephen Ministry, but Wynn is using a program that's been around for 20 or 25 years, touched the lives of millions of people through churches throughout the country. It's not just one church that does it. I think multiple churches use this ministry, and that's going to be the training for our volunteer advocates that we can connect with returning citizens to show them this kind of love. Wynn is the one that took my concept, the work that I was doing, and said, Steve, it is so simple. Why don't you talk about that, how you added what I already had and said, it's simple, Steve, it's what we need.
Well, when we were talking about the kind of support that these men and women need when they're returning from incarceration, one of the things that struck me is it's not only the willingness to share agape love, it's how we do it. How we do it in a way that is most helpful to them, but also doesn't make the person who gives the agape love vulnerable in unnecessary ways. And so the National Online Support Network is one of the ways, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But Stephen Ministry has been around, as you said, for a number of years. Its whole purpose is to train friends for people who are going through times of trauma and change in their life. It could be a death of a loved one. It could be a financial reversal. It could be illness and old age. These are times that can be very lonesome for us, in which we think we're the only ones. And so the program trains people in how to listen, in how to set boundaries. For example, to be a Stephen minister does not mean that you're going to be giving other people money, but it does mean that you're going to listen to them, and you might have some direction and guidance for them. But it doesn't mean that you're inviting them to come live with you, or you're expending your own personal property and resources on their behalf.
Thanks for sharing that, Wynn. One of the examples of when I say that just one caring, genuine friend that wants to help somebody move their life forward can sometimes do more than all those counselors put together. I do not want to minimize those counselors. They are critical. Without them, the friend couldn't step in. There's some people out there that are just going through so much stuff that it takes professionals to help move them forward. And so please don't ever think that the way the system is working. We just need to add to it and do more. The statistics that we're going after, 70% recidivism in the United States, and 85% of the children of people that are already involved, that are born into families where there is incarceration, past or present, are going to see bars in their life. And I believe that the solution that this country needs, it's just not more programs that try to do things and look at the statistics that come out of it. It's the personal relationship that we're trying to create. And here's an example. If we get involved with a returning citizen that joins Right Thinking Foundation National Online Support Network, from Oregon, because I'm going to recruit a couple from Oregon. I'm going to talk to the chaplain out there, and he's going to introduce me to a couple men, it's just men in that prison, by the way. We do women and men. But he'll introduce me to a couple of people that are going to be getting out, that are receptive to right thinking, being there to help them navigate their lives as they get out. Well, so let's say that we help them get a job interview. We've got a lot of ability. I was a counselor for the Small Business Development Center. I can help them figure out how to get a job interview. So the night before the job interview, I want to talk to them, or have a volunteer advocate, is what we call our Stephen Ministry trained people. Talk to them on the phone just as a friend. It's like, hey, this is great. You got that job interview. You got to get a good night's sleep, like talk to me. I'm excited for you. It's going to change your life when you get a job. Just keep them up. Well, what time do you got to get up tomorrow morning to make sure you get to that job interview on time? Well, I probably got about an hour and a half before. What time? 10 is the interview, so you need to be up at 8:30. I'm going to call you at 8 just to make sure that you get up, because it's important. But then in the afternoon or the evening, when they call me after the interview to let me know how it went, let's say they didn't get that job. Well, we're going to pick them right up and say, you know what? Hey, that's just one job you didn't get. You're just starting out trying to find one. Let's figure out what you could do better on the next interview. What did you learn? That's the kind of friendship we want to be there. Just loving support. So when use that same exact little ditty that I just said about calling them up and waking them up and giving them that encouragement, when he introduced the foundation to someone just a week or so ago. Wynn believes in this. But when Agape Love is based on, you want to describe Agape Love a little more, please?
Yeah, Agape Love. Agape is the Greek word used for love in the New Testament. And it is a particular kind of love. It's a love that we can think about that draws on our higher self, our wish for the welfare of another human being, our neighborliness, our care for that person. It's really an openness to everyone without judgment, and a willingness to walk with them in their life. It's different from other Greek words for love, such as eros, which is more of the sexual foundation of love, or philia, which is more of a kind of fraternal love. But those other loves can ultimately find their consummation in agape love. Agape love is the love of God who sent his only Son, Jesus, to be born for us and to die for us.
I'm going to go back to what I said in the beginning of the show when I told you that Wynn Lewis has come into my life, and he is just so loving. Everybody ought to have a friend like Wynn Lewis. So thank you, Wynn. Hey, Wynn, I got a couple scriptures here. It's just part of the show that I like to do.
Sure.
And I'm going to read 3 or 4 or 5 of these that are from Bible verses on friendship. Psalm 133, behold, how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity. Proverbs 17, if you can offer comments to any of these if you like. Proverbs 17, verse 17, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. That kind of works out pretty good. You're my brother. You're helping me through a lot of adversity.
You're my brother too, Steve, And one of the things that has been so exciting for me in getting to know you, Steve, is that for a while we really didn't spend a lot of time together face to face. We got to know one another with a kind of constant conversation back and forth on Facebook Messenger. And what I learned from that is the power of that. When you can't be in physical proximity to someone, when you're out and about, you can keep a conversation going. You can share joys and sorrows and struggles with one another. And as I began to think about that, I realized that I was also doing that with other people, even in different countries. And the power of an ease that our new digital world gives us for staying in touch and building friendship and community with one another.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I've learned a whole lot about Wynn through this messenger thing that we do. And I will tell you that every single day we keep in touch with each other. Wynn is he's not doing this as Wynn doesn't treat me as someone that is, I'm not his project, I'm not his case. I know that. I'm his friend. So I really want to make a clear distinction between a case, a project, and a friend. And I got some other verses I'm going to do in a minute. It's verses on walking with one another. Just like he said, Steve, I might not be able to fix your